It is Lieutenant Skip here with Earn My Badge, and in today's video I'm going to talk about several things that are crucial for you as you apply to departments. I've been in law enforcement for 19 years, and part of that time I served as a recruiter for my department. I met with applicants, I met with chiefs, I met with Civil Service Commission as we assessed and determined whether an applicant would be a good fit for our police academy, where we would send them to our internal in-house academy and pay for their salary. So quite a significant expenditure on an applicant, indication that we believe they would be a good fit for our department. The things that we're going to talk about are things that I wish applicants knew before they applied to our departments, and things that I wish I knew when I applied to my department 19 years ago. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is you. A department is not going to know about you initially, right? They may send you through assessments to see if you meet minimum qualifications, and I have several other videos talking about that, whether an applicant will meet the minimum qualifications to go through testing. But one of the early things that a department is going to look at is going to be your resume, and you need to be able to tailor that resume to law enforcement. The resume you may have used to apply to other commercial businesses or hardware stores or retail is not going to be enough. It's not going to be sufficient to apply to a department. And like I've talked about in those other videos, what I mean by this is if you are a computer engineer and you're talking about your ability to program databases, X, Y, and Z and all that stuff, and that's what you put in your resume, that's probably what you did if you tried to move, if you're applying to another software firm, or if you were trying to apply to a promotion or to another position within that firm. If you use that same approach or use that same language for that job description in your resume to law enforcement agencies, it's not going to make sense. That's not going to tell me whether you have the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities, those are those KSAs, to become a police officer. So you need to take your experiences, your work history, what you've done, what you've learned, and translate that into something that is applicable to law enforcement. So for instance, we want to use that same example. We're going to be talking about that software engineer who did a lot of work as part of a team in programming a platform that allowed end users to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. Well, what if we start saying, you know, that as the member of this team, I worked very closely with co-workers on short deadlines and had to be extremely detailed on our work product. There were times where there were challenges, there were some heated discussions, there was conflict of views on how to approach something, and because of teamwork and leadership, we were able to overcome those challenges and develop our product, our project on time and successfully. So start bullet pointing some of those things that you did as that role, if that makes sense. We're taking your experience and what you did as a SQL database server and putting that into what was the core skills needed to accomplish that, right? So some of those, we'll call them the soft skills to accomplish that. And that's what you start bullet pointing your resume with. And I'm hoping you can understand and starting to picture now how we are tailoring our resume to law enforcement. The next thing is going to be researching departments. I want you to understand as much as you can about a department that you're going to be applying to. That means going on ride-along. That means joining their Facebook page, their Twitter page, Instagram page. See what they are pushing out to the public, because that is usually driven and dictated by the vision of the chief. That he has said, these are my priorities. This is what I want us to focus on. So that's a good clue. That's going to be essential for you as you apply to departments, as you talk to the recruiters, the background investigator, and definitely during your oral board interview. Also, take a look at what is going on in the climate and the culture of law enforcement. What are the strengths that we have as an industry? Where are we also challenged? What is currently being done by different departments? What initiatives are being done? And then more specifically, What is the department you are applying to doing about these things? Okay, that is going to definitely set you apart from your competition. Because I can guarantee you that even if they're going to research that department, they're going to do something very quickly. They're going to do a Google search, maybe jump on the department's website and just get some, we'll call them buzzwords, right? Things that sound really good. But if you can add context and you can add depth to your answers, that is going to make you stand out. I want you to start collecting your documents that you would submit to a department. Okay. The reason you want to do this is you may be asked to submit this documentation on a short time frame. You may have submitted your application, you were in limbo, you were in standby, and then all of a sudden you get an email saying, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. If you have that stuff readily available, no sweat. You're going to send that in, you're going to upload it, you're going to submit it, and you're going to move on. If you don't, you know what? Hopefully you have enough time to get it and get it submitted on time, because if you miss a deadline, generally they are going to dismiss you from that process and move on to the next person. Such a close call with something just like this. I submitted my application, took the first initial testing, and I was told I was on standby, and I waited. I waited for 3 months, didn't hear anything. I took a vacation for a week. I came back, I grabbed the pile of mail, and it was just on the kitchen table for a while. I figured I'd get to it. So that was another week. And then as I was going through this stuff, I recognized there was a letter in there for me to submit my supplemental application and my transcripts and driving record and work history and all this stuff. I had to scramble because the deadline was within a couple days. So by the time I was able to get that information, I actually had to drive to a couple different cities to pick it up because to get it in the mail would just not be quick enough. So I ended up having to overnight that packet to the department, and luckily they got that. So had I had this information on the front end, just waiting to upload it when needed, I would have saved myself a lot of time and really a lot of stress. And had I missed that deadline, things would have been very different for me. So something so small that we say, you know what, we have enough time for, can make an impact, a very large impact that we would not normally recognize. So go ahead and start trying to get that documentation, right? Going out and getting the transcripts, getting the sealed transcript to you or sent to you. So you have that. Departments are going to want a copy of that diploma, but they also want to see that transcript to see that you actually did these things and that matches up. Your driving record, getting a copy of that. In the last couple of years, I'm pretty sure that everyone can relate to. It's been sort of hectic, and getting anything from DMVs or some of these private companies as well as government agencies is difficult. It is delayed. So if you are on against a time, if you're working against a deadline to get something submitted, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging to have that sent to you in time. So get that stuff early. So go out to that DMV, get that driving record, and go get your arrest record from your State Bureau of Investigation, okay? So that way you have it ready to upload, and you will save yourself a tremendous amount of stress. The next thing we're going to talk about is becoming a more viable candidate. And what I mean by that is being a better candidate, standing out from your competition, okay? One of the things about this law enforcement hiring that you understand is much of your initial testing is going to be pass-fail. Your written test, your physical fitness test, those are going to be things that are yes or no. Okay? Where you start to stand out is going to be you. What have you done? What are your skills, your knowledge, and your ability? So tying back into the resume and being able to present that to a department. So what can you do now before you apply to departments? Well, a couple different things. What do departments look for in applicants, and filling that gap that you may have? Physical fitness, that's going to be huge. Having a schedule of when you go work out and being able to show you've been doing this schedule for 2, 3 months, 6 months, and you are at a better fitness because you understand the demands that are going to be asked of you in that police academy. So you've checked that box. Okay. What about firearms? You will have a lot of training in the police academy about firearms. But one of the concerns is going to be, and we don't need you to be a sharpshooter coming in the academy, not by any means. But what they are going to look for is, do you have any familiarity with firearms? Have you fired a weapon before? Are you comfortable shooting a gun? Right? I mean, that is going to be part of law enforcement, that you need to have that comfort and you need to know that beforehand. So if you can take that unknown that the department is going to ask in the back of their head and say, you know what, I am comfortable with firearms. You know, I go to the range once a month and I, look for proficiency and stress shooting. I am comfortable with firearms. Okay, we've taken that question off the table, right? The next thing we can take a look at are, what are some of the situations, the challenges that law enforcement is facing in dealing with the public? So maybe some transparency, maybe conflict management. Can you go online? Can you go to your community college or your college and get some coursework talking about that stuff, or coursework addressing that stuff? Conflict management, dealing with difficult situations, problem analysis. Can you add some of these things into your resume, into your educational background, that allows you to actually be a better officer if you get hired on, but right now will definitely help you stand out from the competition, because they most likely won't have that stuff. And I really want you to become the best candidate that you can be. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if you like these videos, if they are helpful for you, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button.